Well, I think that leads into something else that we had talked about before, and I did a little research on. And I think I'm going to go back to the Constitution.
Okay.
There's a Sixth
Take us
Amendment, and in the Sixth Amendment, it talks about our right to trials, and it starts out with, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. And I got to say, I got to couch this with. This week, I think because we were coming up on this episode, I had a dream that I was in prison. It was horrifying. I don't have bad dreams. And I woke up like I was in a prison cell. I didn't have any contact. I think it was, I don't know how long I was actually there in my dream, but it was terrible. And I woke up and actually affected by it. And when I think about what you're saying with people being in jail for 3 years awaiting trial, I looked up some numbers about the average time people are in jail. And one of the things that's tricky for me is it says specifically we need a speedy trial, but it doesn't say how long that is. And now I couldn't find new numbers. We talked about this, but Bureau of Justice Statistics in 2000, those numbers were about 6 months for the date of arrest to felony conviction. And jury cases were 9 months as an average time. So that could go a lot longer. And when I think about myself, I mean, growing up, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. And even though I would be able to afford a lawyer now or afford bail and hopefully be able to get out, depending on, of course, what crime I did, it's still something where I even think about the money that I've made. And I think when you grow up poor, you kind of grow up with a mentality of someone who grew up in the Great Depression where you have money. You're like, I'm afraid to spend it. Like that's me. I still shop at Aldi, which you could tell by our sponsorship last week. I love deals. And so the thought of giving,
that's where we all agree.
Yeah, 100%. And for my company, I have to pay lawyers and I hate paying them because we're paying them $300 an hour to do basic stuff that we could probably all do ourselves. And so the thought of trying to find a good attorney is tough. And also we say that we're going to provide an attorney, but usually those aren't great attorneys. And if you look at the amount of money that's been spent on attorneys for public defenders, that's been going down over the years. So to me, that's something, again, as someone who is a conservative person and who does really enjoy the fact that we have this Constitution, which gives us all these rights, it's something we should be fighting for, is the fact that these trials should be speedy. And hopefully, again, I think there's a balance here where if we start maybe weaning off of the war on drugs and starting to tame that monster, we can put more of that money into things like public defenders, which then keeps people out of jail, which then we don't have to spend money on all those expenses and it wouldn't go in their record. So I think there's a lot of things here that can kind of come together. But you had shocked me with that. What was it? 3 years someone waited from the time they were convicted.
That's insane.
Is that typically because they just can't afford bail? Is that why they're in jail that long?
That was a special situation. They waited for a jury trial, which lasts, usually it can be around a year. I think theirs was a little longer, but then they ended up having a mistrial. So that's why theirs ended up being so long. So it was,
and they don't go home after the mistrial. They stay in jail.
I feel like, that's where it's like totally shocking to me that there's not some kind of program that would help.
I feel like that's something we should all know, but that's shocking to me. I thought you went home.
That is shocking.
And then
the other thing
back later.